Another big thing coming up, this we're filming on Saturday, on the 1st, but on the 8th, next Saturday, is UFC 313. So I know we're excited about that, being UFC fans here. The main card starts off with King Green and Mauricio Rufy. Are you guys familiar with these fighters?
Not so much Mauricio, but King Green I've been watching. He's a fun fighter.
So who do you think is going to win?
I think King is.
Yeah,
I think he's really
Mauricio
good.
Rufy is going to destroy him.
He is?
Mauricio Rufy is one of 4 of the fighting nerds. It's going to be John Silva, Carlos Prates, Caio Barajo, and Mauricio Rufy, and they're all savages. They're undefeated. It's the best camp in the UFC right now. Mauricio Rufy is going to dominate King Green, and he's going to establish himself as a real problem in the lightweight. He's an absolute dog. There's Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. We're going to go ahead and skip that one. Jalen Turner and Ignacio Bahamondes. This is also a super exciting fight. Ignacio is up and coming lightweight fighter out of Chile. He's really solid, super well rounded. And then Jalen Turner is who I once thought a top 5 type contender for the weight class. He had some tough losses, but he's a total knockout threat. He's a big lightweight. He's a big dude. He's tall, has the reach and just the knockout potential. So it's even money on the books. Could go either way. I don't have like a firm stance on who I think's going to win. I would choose Jalen because Jalen, to me, he's somebody I like more. Ultimately, I have a bias towards him, and I think he has the knockout power. So it's going to be a good like action fight. There's going to be a lot of action in this fight. I don't think it's going to go all the way. If anything, if you're going to pick this fight, pick the under. Justin Gaethje and Rafael Vasiv, they're going to be the co-main for the night. It was originally booked as Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. That fight was going to be such a scrap. Everybody was excited to watch that because both of them just go to war. And unfortunately, Hooker broke his hand in training camp and had to drop out. There was a lot of different ideas of maybe Ilya would step up and fight Justin. They had different people in mind to come in.
Arman was there.
Arman was there. Yeah. Charles. Even a Dustin Poirier rematch. Yeah. There was a lot, and then we ended up getting Fasiv. That's like the least exciting, to be honest. They've already fought before. It was a decent fight. Like, it was pretty fun. Fasiv brings the action too. Justin pretty much dominated him in that fight, but they're going to run it back. Of all the options, it's probably the one that I wasn't as excited about, but it's still a Gaethje fight, so it's still something to get excited about. And Fasiv, he brings the action too, so
I have a question for you guys
not the worst.
So when Hooker dropped out, I believe they made calls to a few fighters. Like you said, Charles was there, Arman was there, and maybe even Ilya. But what do you think about the UFC being so hard on Arman? Because we still don't know why he dropped out of his fight with, like, the real reason why he dropped out of his fight with Islam. I think he said back pain, some type of injury. Most people think it's, there's a conspiracy out there that it's weight related, that he wasn't able to make weight. Typically, whenever a fighter is able to, fighters willing to step in at the last minute to save kind of a co-main or even a main, the UFC makes concessions, right? Particularly about weight, especially this close to the fight, where they allow maybe some type of catch weight, for you to be able to come in, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever that number is, heavier, as long as it's not a championship fight. What I saw online was that Arman said, yes, I will take this fight. I'll go fight Gaethje, but since we're this close to the event, give me 160. Allow me to come in at 160 and I'll go take it, which to me doesn't sound very unreasonable. And the UFC has set a precedence that they're willing to do that, and they have done it before. I'm surprised that they weren't able to do it. Do you guys think they're being hard on him because of the ball he dropped with the Islam fight? Because that was supposed to be a banger. They were really hoping it would do numbers, and kind of last minute he just dropped out.
Yeah, I do think that they're kind of like, this doesn't. You don't decide if you're going to fight, like we decide.
Yeah.
And fighters that cut a lot of weight, they do end up getting injured, and that's like a normal thing. So back pain, leaving a fight because of back pain or dropping out of a fight because of back pain due to the weight cut, I think is very normal. Khabib dropped out of a couple fights because of the cutting the weight too. So it's something that you do see. Arman does drop a lot of weight. So it definitely was weight related. And, you know, he shouldn't decide when he gets he shouldn't just jump into a fight like that. He should have like a full camp before he fights for sure.
Yeah, but he was willing to. And I think the UFC's concern was if he does beat Gaethje, then they have to give him a title shot again. Right. And maybe they want to make that point, like you said, that we're in control, you're not, and you'll fight when we say you fight, and you'll do what we say.
The issue is that his fight was in Anaheim, and there's like a big Armenian or community in Anaheim that he was essentially like the card was almost tailored to his home court. He was fighting. It was like a home court advantage, and I think Islam's a badass because that's what he does. He goes to Australia, fights Volk. Yeah. He goes to Anaheim to fight.
He was willing to fight Charles in Brazil.
He was willing to fight Charles in Brazil. Yeah. He goes to Anaheim to fight the homie Arman, and he just last minute he dropped out like day of, and all that fight. We don't know the details, but doing that is just going to put a stain on your resume regardless. Absolutely. Like you got to thug it out and figure it out. And obviously if you're hurt and you're going against a guy like Islam, like it's like you want to feel as good as you possibly can going into that fight. So I can understand, but I can understand why he dropped out because he was hurt, but I could also understand why the UFC is like, all right, well now you have to kind of like earn it with one like solid win. It's not like they're like, okay, you need to go on another like fight streak to get a shot. Right. You just got to get another solid win against a top contender, and then you'll be lined up for your title shot again. But yeah, I mean, they didn't give him Gaethje. I wanted Gaethje in either Dustin or Gaethje and Charles or Gaethje and Ilya, maybe even. I mean, there
were a lot of options that could have been.
There are a lot of options, and they were even throwing out Jean Silva. They wanted Jean Silva because there's like a huge rush of fans that love him. They want, Gaethje's got only a few fights left in his UFC career, and real UFC fans want to see the best possible fights for him, and I'm with that too. I want to see him fight the best of the best. So that one should be exciting, and then the championship fight. Is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. We talked about this a little bit. It's a super intriguing fight. Magomed is coming off a win streak. He's the number one contender. He is somebody that felt like he deserved this for a while now, and a lot of fans can make an argument that he did. There are also fans that say that he's kind of a boring, one-trick pony type of fighter that, we don't want to watch, and the entertainment value isn't there. Alex obviously is super entertaining. I think the books have it pretty even money right now, with Alex being a slight favorite. I think leading into the fight, that'll probably change. It is Ramadan, and Magomed is Muslim, so he's fighting while he's fasting for the month of Ramadan, which makes him a savage for taking it. He's like, hey, they're not going to give it to me any other way, and that's probably one of the wrinkles that they had to throw on top of it just for him to get the fight. And he was like, I don't give a shit, like, give it to me, I want it. That level of conviction and willpower is scary. He's got a chip on his shoulder, that's scary. He's obviously a really well-rounded fighter, but just strong grappling presence, which I think everyone who's attempted to take Alex Pereira down in their fights has taken him down. So it is a little scary for in terms of matchups, but Alex has the nuclear power in his hooks, his hands, his feet, his legs, his knees. He can win a lot of different ways when the fight's standing up. His calf kick is one of a kind. It's going to potentially destroy Magomed's leg. That's what happened when Magomed fought Jan. His leg got destroyed from those calf kicks. There's times earlier in the promotion for this where Magomed said, hey, I'm willing to stand and bang. Everyone says that to get the fight against Alex because he is a draw. We'll see when we get there, once he eats a couple calf kicks, if he's willing to stand through that, or if his instincts take him to what's the closest path of victory. I think he's
going on the ground. 30 seconds, he's shooting for a takedown.
Yeah, I think after a couple of those calf kicks, he's going to shoot. He is a little underrated with the striking. He is a good striker, but Alex is Alex is like elite in that part of it. So I like Alex to win this. I'm going with Alex. I think it's better for the UFC. I think there's more entertainment value to him winning, and there's more opportunity for exciting fights to come after.
Only one after this.
For sure. My heart wants Alex. My head says Magomed. I'm going with my heart on this one. And outside of that, other kind of UFC news. They're rumoring Tom versus John Jones. Tom Aspinall versus John Jones is being rumored. There's already early odds that are coming out on that fight. They got Tom Aspinall as the favorite, the betting favorite. So I thought that was interesting. They matched Bryce Mitchell with Jean Silva, which is also an interesting fight. John Silva won last week and essentially on the mic said, UFC, let me take care of your problem. Give me Bryce Mitchell. I'll take care of him for you, because of the recent comments that Bryce Mitchell made
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bryce, we want you on the pod. Like you're total gold. Like anything you want to talk about, flat earth, Arkansas, Texas, Indians, whatever you want to talk about. Are there Indians in Arkansas? Can you tell us about that? We could talk about that too. We could talk about whatever, but it's exciting to see that fight. I actually, I'm a big Fighting Nerds fan. Obviously, I'm a big Jean Silva fan, but I want Bryce to win. I think Bryce can win. I think the odds came out for that fight, and he's a pretty heavy underdog. But Bryce is just hilarious to me. Obviously, he said some problematic things. I don't care so much for that, but just overall, he's just like a really funny guy. And I love how he, stands on business for Arkansas, and he's such an Arkansas guy through and through. And people who have pride for their land like that, I appreciate. No matter who it is and for what it's for. I do want to wrap up with the UFC stuff real quick and go into a quick, my top 3 fighters that aren't in the UFC that we want to see in the UFC. And these aren't MMA fighters per se. They're different fighting type practitioners. At number 3, I have Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford's a boxer. He's shown that he can wrestle. He's got a little bit of wrestling history, but he's like an elite boxer. He's a scrapper. I think the Riyadh team is trying to get him and Canelo Alvarez set up for a boxing match, but it would be really awesome to see him cross over into the UFC and fight in the UFC and see if his elite boxing can win him matches in mixed martial arts. Number 2, I have Gable Stevenson. Gable Stevenson is a gold medal wrestler. He's a big dude. He would fight at heavyweight. He's dominant in the wrestling sphere. There's narratives right now about how American wrestling, American gold wrestling, D1, high caliber wrestling is no longer a big of a threat in the UFC as it used to be, as the fighters are getting more evolved and fighting back against that narrative. A lot of wrestlers are losing. Tatiana Suarez more recently, Henry Cejudo more recently. So this narrative is being attacked. And then at number 1, clear-cut number 1 for me is Gordon Ryan. I mean, Gordon Ryan is the world's most prominent, high-level
He's not fighting
BJJ practitioner. He's John Danaher coach. He's chess mind, elite level mental athlete, elite level physical athlete. He does take a little bit of PEDs to juice up to be in top form. So really those are my top 3. Those are my top 3 if you guys want to debate that.
Bo Nickal's one of the top wrestlers that are in the UFC in terms of accomplishments in wrestling. Does he have a fight that's scheduled?
I don't know. Let me check. I don't think he has any. I think they're talking about Bo Nickal, and
I think they're building up Bo versus Hamzat a little bit. In interviews, I see Bo kind of talking about that being an interesting fight.
So there's a fighter that joined the card recently. His name is I don't want to butcher his name. Day Ritter. He's from. De Ritter is from One Champion. He came in. He just beat Kevin Holland pretty convincingly. And so they're talking about matching them up. And this would definitely be Bo Nickal's toughest challenge by far. He's fought a bunch of cans, and he hasn't looked that dominant in those fights. So I'm excited to see.
That's a fun fight.
I'm excited to see that.
Shout out to Allen High School.
Shout out to Allen. Bo Nickal, Allen's finest UFC star. We're big Bo Nickal fans here, so it's exciting to see that.